We start hour 2 of the show. Glad to have you with us, along with Trevor Trowbridge. I'm Sean Stiers. It is rapid fire time. We've got South Bend Cubs baseball coming up here in about 40 minutes, 45 minutes or so. 40 minutes, I guess, as I peek around the clock and learn how to tell time on the fly. So, Jeremiyah Love, you may have heard, has a comic book coming out called Jeremonstar. So, with the comic book theme in mind, Jeremiyah Love was asked what his superpower is. And here is what Jeremiyah Love said.
I have a multitude of superpowers, but if I could choose one, I would probably choose speed, pretty fast. Speed kills. So that'd be my main superpower. Probably not in the comic, but I have a multitude of speed, everything you think of. Yeah.
Not his superpower in the comic, but in real life. Speed is his superpower. But do you buy or sell that? Like, is that a number one, the thing for Jeremiyah Love? What do you think, Trevor?
Yeah, I buy that emphatically. I don't know how the number one superpower couldn't be speed.
I think it's probably got to be speed as well. But I mean, this is a guy who can, leap tall buildings in a single bound and, like leap defenders like they're nothing. Have you seen that the New Balance? He's got this. Apparently, he just signed this new NIL deal with New Balance, and fittingly enough, the promo photo that I shot is Jeremiyah Love. There's no one underneath him, but he is hurtling up in the air. He is like, I don't know how many feet off the air. So I think speed is probably number one. I'm trying to think, like, what would you call superpower number two for Jeremiyah Love? Would it be his boinginess, his springiness?
Yeah.
Would that be it?
Yeah, for sure. The kid's got bounce. I mean, he's ask one of the many linebackers or DBs that he hurdled last season.
Yeah,
he can
exactly. Get like Stymie says, the anti-gravity. I think that makes sense. Some anti-gravity for Jeremiyah Love, and just his elusiveness. Like the wiggle and everything else that he's got in his game. And like I think that the strength and probably the ability to run through the brick wall and not just over the brick wall. I think that maybe that is an underrated aspect of his game still, even though, we saw that on display in the Penn State game in the Orange Bowl.
Yeah, that's a good point. Super strength could probably come into play as a close third because of that run against Penn State.
Yeah, exactly. And I've got to see here. Okay, there it is. I thought for a second, man, I keep scaring myself after playing the wrong Mike Denbrock cut to start us off in the first hour of the show. I keep scaring myself on whether or not I actually have the right cuts loaded up and where they are and everything else. So another Fighting Irish running back, Jadarian Price, met with the media recently as well, and he discussed the top thing that he's worked on this offseason.
I've been working on just slowing the game down. I feel like last year I would get a little frantic going into the game and not necessarily like nervous or anything like that, just too quick with my feet and not slowing the game down, letting the blocks develop, just staying under the control with my my square body, just being able to make a move on someone and not get out of control and slipping forward, things like that.
When you talk about slowing the game down, does that go back to what you were talking about with the non-explosive plays, like being able to hit those?
Yeah, I mean, the truth of the matter, not every play is going to be 40-yard, 50-yard touchdown. So you got to expect, when the blitz coming, who's the unblocked guy, things like that, things that I wasn't really thinking about last year. I'm a vet now. I've been a vet last year too, but now I'm truly a vet, and I want to focus on those little things, pre-snap, see the whole picture like I'm a quarterback.
I mean, it wasn't completely all or nothing last year, Trevor, but those two guys did. They had a lot of explosive runs that they made, both Price and Love. And if we're looking at Price specifically, again, if you're going to maybe nitpick the game a little bit, what he's talking about is, okay, if it's not a 50-yard run, can it at least be a 4 to a 5-yard run instead of some of those 1 to 2s that just got shut down? How important do you think that is?
Extremely. Last year, and some of it was by nature, but last season, Jadarian Price was definitely more of the feast or famine type of running back between the two of him or Jay Love. But you kind of understand it. You know, if you're Jadarian Price, you kind of go into the game knowing, okay, I get X amount of series, I get X amount of carries, got to make the most out of them.
Mm-hmm.
But now that he's a veteran running back, it's getting the most out of a run is a little bit of a different frame of reference. To your point, Sean, it's not always, I got to get the most out of this run. And if I can take it to the crib, I can take it to the crib.
Right.
It's like, hey, if I can take us from, 2nd and 13 to 3rd and 5, instead of trying to go from 2nd and 13 to a touchdown, that's going to be really impactful for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And then when that happens, all of a sudden you're not facing as many third downs as you were as a result, when you're not getting quite as much out of those first down runs. Because I mean, look, this is a guy who averaged 6 yards a carry as it was last year. That's a nice, healthy number for your number 2 back to average over 6 yards a carry, Jadarian Price. But again, if you get more consistency and it's not just a 50-yard run or a 2-yard run, and all of a sudden you're averaging, 3.5, 4 yards a pop on those shorter runs, then all of a sudden you're averaging 7 yards a carry as a result. And that means a lot of 2nd and 3s and potentially 3rd and 1s, a lot more manageable. And then, as much as Marcus Freeman is willing to go for it on 4th down, that means that there are potentially fewer 4th downs where you have to go for it as well. And I just think that, and again, like when you look at the fact that you don't have a Riley Leonard to potentially bail you out by just being Riley Leonard and doing Riley Leonard stuff on 3rd down a lot. I think that this offense can just look that much more consistent if they can do some of those things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think the rhythm of the offense is going to flow a lot better if he's able to do that. But again, last year I understood why he had to do what he had to do, but it's about maturing as a running back, and I'm excited to watch him doing this year. That's for sure.
We're going to hear some comments from J1 Sider on tomorrow's show about these guys and about the running game. But one of the things that he talked about at his media session as well was, like as skilled as these guys were, one of the things that he's doing is like they're looking, they're looking more at fronts and blocking scheme, and like what the defense is trying to do and just all these different things. That's not just, here I am, I'm this, I'm relying solely on my skills. I'm also relying on my brain and my preparation now to help make some of that more consistent. And I think that can potentially go a long way as well.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he's coaching him up like he doesn't have 2 starting running backs essentially that can run 22 miles an hour and jump.
Yeah.
I mean, it's once they add that aspect to their game, it makes them that much more lethal.
Yeah.
And I am all for it.
And I think not only can those short yards, those short runs be more consistent, but it's also, again, like when you apply that because of the skills that these guys do have, because speed does skill, and Jeremiyah Love has a lot of it, and so does Jadarian Price himself, and they can both be physical. I think that's also going to lead to even more explosive runs this year, because they're going to set themselves up and put themselves in better positions once they break through that first line and get into the secondary or close to the secondary.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, it's more patience. You're letting the play develop. You're going to have an understanding of where the linebackers flow and who doesn't fit into what gap. It's essentially, Coach Sider is essentially teaching them how to take advantage of more defensive mishaps than just relying on, hey, you guys are freaky fast and freaky shifty, and you can jump over people and make anybody miss in the open field.
Right.
You combine that with the football IQ of not just being a good running back, but being a good football player, man, they're going to be a lethal duo.
Yeah. And that was one of the things, like Josh Adams a few years back, if there was a criticism of him that I heard from like guys who have played the position and the whole thing is maybe he was, just always waiting for that perfect block or that perfect cutback to, for those explosive runs. What was going, what about those first down runs that weren't always, going to go 60, 70 yards? Like that consistency, I just think goes such a long way. TD4ND, great minds think alike. He says he'll break a few of those short runs for long runs. Absolutely right. Fill in the blank. It's blank that Jeremiyah Love, Jadarian Price, and Aeneas Williams have all been named preseason candidates for the Doak Walker Award, which goes to the nation's most outstanding running back.
It's impressive in one word. I mean, Notre Dame is one of only 2 teams on the entire watch list that has 3 running backs listed. I did think it was interesting that USC was the other team that had 3 running backs listed. I don't know how much I buy into that. I would have thought it would have been Texas A&M or Louisville. But, I mean, in short, for Notre Dame, it's extremely impressive. Very impressive.
It's impressive, and it also, does go to show that like some of these preseason lists, they're obviously covering their bases, getting a little bit of everybody out there. But for Notre Dame specifically, just what you mentioned, the fact that they're one of just 2 schools in the nation with 3 guys, because obviously Penn State's got 2 guys on there, and there are a lot of other schools who have got multiple guys on there, but very rare to have 3. And again, it just goes to show the depth that Notre Dame has in this room and why everyone's so excited about this room, because we know what Jeremiyah Love and Jadarian Price can do. We've seen little glimmers of what Aeneas Williams can do. This is dude himself. And once Jeremiyah Love is headed off to the NFL after this season, Jadarian Price may have a decision. He will have a decision to make in terms of what he decides to do. But they're going to be in great shape when you've got a guy like Aeneas Williams and some of these other guys behind those top 2-tier guys as well.
Oh, it's the deepest running back room in the country. I mean, yep. I don't know how many other teams you go down 6 spots on the depth chart and see a guy like Nolan James.
Exactly.
And then sign the recruiting class that they had with Javian Osborne and Jonas Walton. I mean, it's just, they're rolling. This room is absolutely loaded. And they had those 3 guys, and based on some of the criteria of how some of the other players on the list made it, it wouldn't have been crazy if Notre Dame would have had 4 guys on there either. So.
Yeah, that's true. That's very true. Okay, so everyone wants to see Drake Bowen get back there at running back. I am Tenzin. I am the son of Aang in the YouTube chat says, and you have Drake in an emergency.
Tenzin, I love you, buddy, but I need Drake focusing on being the best middle linebacker that he can be. Because
I want him stopping running backs. I don't want him playing running back. I'll just we'll let him stuff those.
But in a pinch, in a pinch,
you always know it's there. Kenny Minchey touched on this a little bit in the first hour of the show with some comments from Mike Denbrock. Kenny Minchey met with the media recently. We've had all kinds of chances to talk to a lot of these different players and coaches. It's been great to get a lot of their thoughts. Apparently, there's this social media / message board thing going around asking why not Kenny, as in why not Kenny as the starting quarterback. Here is Kenny Minchey's answer to that when he was asked, why not Kenny?
I feel like someone has sent me that in the past, but I'm definitely not on social media right now. But someone has showed me that before. But yeah.
How would you answer that? Why not Kenny?
Most of the time I just laugh at it because whether it's good or bad, I try not to listen to it. But yeah, I definitely wouldn't respond.
All right. So there is Kenny Minchey's answer to why not Kenny. Trevor Trowbridge, nonplussed. Have you seen anything that resembles why not Kenny trending anywhere on social media? I ask you, Trevor.
Trending anywhere? No, but I have seen it sporadically throughout my timeline or feed or whatever.
All right. Someone said in the first hour they thought maybe Mike Goolsby is the one that started this. Okay. Again, like I've done some searches. It didn't seem like it was a big thing, but there are like Irish Breakdown has its own message board, Irish Illustrated, Blue and Gold, all these different sites have their own stuff. So maybe it's there and we're just not, seeing the Kenny Minchey hype train rolling on ours at this point.
Potentially. Yeah. I mean,
do you think one's coming? Do you think a hype train is coming?
Maybe. I mean, he's done some things that have really impressed, me and some of the other people back at Irish Breakdown. I mean, I'm sure you as well. I think there's just this notion out there that the quarterback battle has already been decided. And I don't think that that's true. I really don't. This is a true competition. They have no reason to hide anything. You know what I'm saying? Look, and you and I have said the same thing here, Sean. I don't care if Notre Dame tells us who the starting quarterback is. I could find out at 7:29 p.m. on August 31st who the starting quarterback is. But as long as they know, as long as the program knows who their guy is, that's all that matters, truthfully. And so that's where I'm at with the whole situation. Kenny is very much in the battle. I'm not the biggest fan of the why not Kenny. I mean, I don't really care because he is in the battle.
Well, because I mean, it just feels like you're beating a drum for a certain guy. And if you're your job in the media, that's not what it's supposed to be, is to be, you can have your opinion on who you think it should be, but if you want, it's the same for any position battle, whether it's the quarterback, linebacker, offensive line. Like it seems like fans tend to pull for the higher rated, the guy who was higher rated as a recruit, because like that justifies the rating or whatever, or maybe it's just the expectation that you place on that because of the rating that they came in with. And it's one thing, like if fans kind of pick their guy and all that different kind of stuff, but at the end of the day, you should just want the guy who's the best guy. Like that's who you should want. You shouldn't have a preconceived notion and be actively cheering, especially us when we're also supposed to be objectively watching and dissecting things that happen. Because if you're out there, pulling for a certain result, that obviously skews what you see and the way you talk about it and report it afterwards.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, but unfortunately, that's just how fan bases are. And this isn't Notre Dame specific, but I can speak to that the best because I follow Notre Dame the closest out of any other, sports team.
Yeah.
We saw the same thing back in 2022 when it was, I'm team Audric Estime. No, I'm team Logan Diggs. And it's like, why not be team both? Because they're both great football players for Notre Dame. You can be team both. You can be team Notre Dame. I think CJ Carr is going to win the starting job. But if it's Kenny, then let's ride because I want Notre Dame to be successful. I don't have a dog in the fight. It's just after watching practices and giving thoughtful analysis, that's who I think could win. But that doesn't mean I think Notre Dame is going to absolutely suck if Kenny Minchey is the starting quarterback either. They both have extremely high ceilings, extremely high.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Brian NY says that Goolsby is the one that started the why not Kenny, and he's been wrong on every Notre Dame quarterback for 5 years. I haven't charted his prognosis or prognostication, so I couldn't tell you on that. Don in the YouTube chat says, I think some fans, rightfully so, just don't want Minchey to be ignored. And I think that's fair. That's completely fair. You don't want either guy to be ignored. Again, like we went into the spring, I think, with an idea of, based on the things that we had seen, who we thought was going to be the guy. Mm-hmm. Maybe that changes a little bit. I don't know. But again, unfortunately, the only competitive snaps that we got to see, really competitive snaps that we got to see, were day one. So we've got nothing to compare that to. So instead, we break down the highlight videos that we get.
We break down the highlight videos. We overanalyze the press conferences and people's body language, and we read in between the lines. It'll all play out just fine. Yeah.
To your point, what you were talking about earlier, I mean, there is, a very large assumption from most people that it is going to be CJ Carr, like that top 40 player list that you were talking about. And CJ Carr shows up at number 4 in terms of first-time starters for contending teams and those kind of things, So there's obviously a very large contingent, that thinks that Kenny Minchey, or that thinks that CJ Carr is going to be the guy. And so maybe to some extent, Kenny Minchey is being slighted or forgotten. And like Don says, that people don't want Minchey to be forgotten or ignored in this whole thing. And that's completely fair because it is a 2-man race. And, at the end of the day, we all just want to find out who it's going to be. So then we can start talking about that angle and what the team is going to look like with that guy. So I started to get into this one yesterday, and then we got swept up in some other conversation. Marcus Freeman was asked at the start of training camp about preparing for the Heat in Miami for this month's season opener after they prepared for the Heat at Texas A&M for last year's opener. Here you go.
We can't control the weather, but we can control hydration. We can control supplements and all those things. So we have to continue to do that. You know, there was a couple hot days, Monday and Tuesday, when our guys were out there running in the heat and working out. Today wasn't a crazy hot day, but you know, hopefully Mother Nature gives us some hot days where we go practice in the heat. But more than anything, it's just going to be about the hydration over time. It's not game week, we got to start hydrating. This is something that has to be a habit and a routine for every player in the program.
Trevor, this storyline, the Heat for the opener is blank.
Tiresome. Look, of all of the things to ask about the preparation for Miami, I don't see the weather being a big factor, because that is above all else the biggest thing about the game that is out of the control of the coaching staff. It just is. It was the question was answered last year with Texas A&M and handling the heat. And yes, I understand. Well, Florida heat is different than Texas heat. It's like, yeah, but it's still hot. You still have to prepare for it. I mean, why don't these questions get asked in the winter in November when Notre Dame is hosting some of these players?
How you gonna prepare for that weather on a December night?
Yeah, you can't. I mean, it's going to be a factor of the game. To Coach Freeman's point, he answered it the best to his ability. We can't control the weather, but we can control how we hydrate, how we stretch, how we prepare, and that's kind of the end of it. There's nothing. What if it rains? You know, are you going to ask to move the location indoors? Like, it's just stuff that you can't control.
How are you going to prepare for those wet footballs?
Yeah, it's just one of those questions that just in general, no matter who asks it, it just kind of always gets under my skin, because it's one of those things that there's literally nothing a head coach can do or any player can do to control the weather.
Well, and I'm surprised, you know, because it's come up, you know, in some of the other media sessions beyond just Marcus Freeman with some of the players and stuff like that. What'd you learn from last year? Well, you hydrate more. That, like, literally, that is it. That is literally the only thing you can do. You know, like, you know, it was the number one topic, it seemed like, going into that game last year, and everyone just acted like Notre Dame was going to melt because they were going to Texas, and Texas is hot in the summertime. Guess what? It's hot everywhere in the country in the summertime. Remember, like, it heated up the week of the game. It got pretty hot and humid up here. You know, like, there have been some pretty hot stretches that we've had so far this summer. It's been pretty cool for the last couple of weeks. It's supposed to get hot again. Like, there's literally nothing you can do other than hydrate. Like, you know, drink more Gatorade, like an IV fluid, you know, an IV if you need it. Other than that, what else can you do? It's like everyone's going to have to deal with it. Granted, the Miami guys are down there, and, you know, like, they're a little bit more acclimated to it, just like the Texas A&M guys were last year. But guess what? Notre Dame went to Texas A&M and won a hard-fought physical game, heat and all. End of story. Like, I don't understand why such an overplayed storyline last year is now carrying into this year as well. I thought everyone, you know, could have put that behind after Notre Dame overcame the heat and went to Texas and won that game.
Yep. But not a lot of questions when it was forecasted to snow and it was real feel 9 degrees for the Notre Dame IU game, though.
Right.
It's weather. It's football weather. Some of these, look, also, every single kid that Notre Dame has recruited didn't grow up in South Bend, Indiana.
Yep.
They're coming from all
Florida
over
kids,
the country.
Georgia kids, Carolina kids. Yep.
It's also a night game.
Kids. Yep. All over.
So, like the A&M game was, so they don't kick off at 2 p.m. So those questions get very tiresome.
Fill in the blank. Kyren Williams getting a 3-year, $33 million contract extension from the Los Angeles Rams today is blank.
Well-deserved. Well-deserved.
I had a little in my throat.
Ah.
Very well-deserved. And this is, like this is a 5th round guy who, his rookie year didn't play a whole lot. Like he played, but he wasn't a huge factor. In each of the last 2 years, he's become a big factor. And so for a 5th round guy at this position, a disregarded position that it has kind of become in the NFL, where running backs are more and more disposable, it seems like, for him going into year 4 to get this kind of contract, $23 million of it guaranteed, is just awesome. And like when you think of like where Kyren Williams came from that freshman season with the drop ball at Louisville, sent to the bench, barely played again the rest of the year, and then the next 2 years, what he became, such a workhorse. He's like, in terms of running backs in recent years, definitely one of my favorite guys that I have seen come through here, just with the work attitude, the ethic, the work ethic, the whole thing that he's got, and the skill that he's shown on the field. And, I've said it a million times, that run against North Carolina where he goes to his right, reverses his field, and then takes off down the sideline, still, like, I put that in terms of plays that I've seen in person, one of the all-time running plays that I've seen inside Notre Dame Stadium.
Well, he was electric. Whenever I think of Kyren Williams, I just think of the 2020 run against Clemson.
Yep. That's exactly it.
That is the first thing that comes to my mind. But he goes back to that conversation about what we were talking about, what Coach Sider's doing with the running backs now, being a good IQ guy.
Mm-hmm.
I love Kyren Williams. He's not the athlete that Jadarian Price and Jeremiyah Love are. He's not a 4.3 combine guy. He's not jumping over people, but he's a smart running back who has good tools. And he's playing for a really good offensive-minded coach, and Sean McVay knows how to use him. He's kind of the safety net there in Los Angeles, and I'm happy for him. Well-deserved.
Fred in the YouTube chat throwing big shots across the bow. He says only Dallas doesn't value the running back position. Well, they overpaid Ezekiel Elliott when he held out a few years back, and that didn't work out. I think that they are overreacting to that, the way they have tried to handle the running back position the last few drafts and the last few years. They have overcompensated the other way. They completely overvalued the running back there for a while after drafting Elliott in the first round and then signing him to that contract extension. All right. Last question of the night. Got a little choked up. Now I got a little in my throat there. Let's guess the season over-under win total for Oregon. We haven't done the Ducks yet. So we're going to go through the schedule, and then what we do is we go to Fan Duel. We pull out the Fan Duel app, and we guess the season over-under win total for the Ducks. We've done it for a lot of different teams. We haven't done Oregon yet. So, excuse me. They start off with Montana State. I don't think anyone's going to say that Montana State's going to be a challenge to Oregon.
No.
Interesting game, too. They host Oklahoma State. Interesting little matchup there. Then they go to Northwestern as they begin Big Ten play. And then their big rival, Civil War, Oregon State. That's a home game for Oregon this season. September 27th, they go to Penn State. That'll be a big one. They follow that with a home game against Indiana.
Okay.
Then they go cross-country again to Rutgers. Then they host Wisconsin, at Iowa, Minnesota. They host USC. They finish the regular season November 29th at Washington. So they were 13-0, 12-0 in the regular season, won the Big Ten championship, 13-0 last season before they lost to Ohio State in the college football playoff. So based on that schedule, Trevor, what do you think FanDuel has got their over-under win total set at?
I'm going to guess 10.5. I could see FanDuel setting the line there.
I think that's probably the ballpark, because, I mean, really, it comes down to, okay, Penn State, I'm almost tempted to say 11.5, but I don't know if I'm willing to go that high.
Yeah, At Penn State's going to be a rough one. And really the month of November for them is just a bunch of sleeper teams. Like Iowa's a tough place to play. They're also 1-2 in their last 3 home games against ranked opponents. So we'll see.
Minnesota's a team that people are fairly high on.
Yeah. USC, I think, could be a sleeper team in the Big Ten. And then you have on the road against Washington. Washington hasn't lost a home game in that stadium in 3 years. So November is a tricky month for them. But if I were to guess, I bet after following up basically a 13-1 season, starting at 13-0, I bet they set the line at 10.5.
Right. I just realized we're about 45 seconds left here. So you're going 10.5?
10.5.
I'm going 10.5 as well. All right. Drum roll, please. The over-under 10.5 on Fan Duel for the Oregon Ducks. Turned out to be one of the easier ones that we've done. But kind of goes back to what I've said all along with the overrated nature of the Big Ten 9-game schedule. They make it out like it's the toughest schedule ever, but Oregon's win total is set at 10.5. Trevor Trowbridge, good to talk to you as always. I will talk to you again soon.
Sure will. Thanks for having me on.
Yep, absolutely. We will wrap it up with that. South Bend Cubs baseball is coming up next. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.